objectives. It also helps us to identify the challenges, lessons learned, and successes encountered on the project to inform decision making and improving performance to achieve the project goal. Although we know M&E, monitoring and evaluation always go hand in hand, but I have a few differences, a few similarities that I just want to share with us. For monitoring, it's tracking input, activities, and progress towards achievement of a great outcome and impact. Then while for evaluation, it's a systematic and objective assessment of the merit, value, or worth of an ongoing completed project. Regular and ongoing during project implementation. For evaluation, it's periodic, it's a one-off event during and if funding permits after project implementation. For monitoring, activities are conducted by members of the project team. For evaluation, activities are often internally led, although they should involve the active participation of project staff. Under monitoring, it informs timely decision-making and short-term corrective action in support of adaptive management. Under evaluation, it identifies potential cost correction, contributes on longer-term organizational learning. Monitoring also answers questions about how many people were reached with the project, if project processes complete activities on time and on budget and successful in achieving the target set for its intended outcome. While evaluation looks at if the project reached the beneficiaries with the greatest need, gives reasons if it didn't, and how outcomes achieved varied by different groups within the target area while measuring effectiveness. Now, I'll just be giving us importance of monitoring and evaluation programs. It helps to understand the extent to which the program is achieving its goals and objectives and outcomes. It helps to ascertain if a project is on track in implementing its planned activities. It informs program decision making regarding issues and certain challenges the program might encounter. It also contributes to organization lesson plans, success stories, and encourages knowledge sharing. It also helps to hold stakeholders accountable for their deliverables. Now, I'll just show us this diagram, and I'm sure we must have gone through it in our module 1. So I will not want to dwell much on this. Then under M&E, there's what we call initial assessment. The initial assessment is conducted to determine whether a project is needed, and if so, to inform how the project will be planned. A needs assessment is usually used for this process. Needs assessment is a systematic process used to identify gaps in the target population, look into the causes of those gaps, and prioritize strategies to address them. Needs assessment is most useful in the following situations. Your project is just starting out, when there is uncertainty as to what the most important needs are, when you need to convince funders or external groups that you are tackling the most important issues, when you want to involve the community more in determining the scope or specific components of your intervention, when you are unsure of baseline knowledge, attitudes, and practices, but cannot afford a baseline assessment. Now, planning. How do we plan? In monitoring and evaluation, we must plan. This is the second phase in the cycle. That is, there's um, initial assessment and now planning. So these are the two phases in the program cycle in monitoring and evaluation. It, it is informed by the findings from the needs assessment. It includes the development of a logic model and monitoring and evaluation plan and conducting a baseline study. A logic model is a visual representation to systematically map the relationship between a project's resources, activities, and the results of those activities. It illustrates the project's assumptions of how it intends to contribute to improvement in the target population. So this is just what an MIE like a summary. When you have your input, your activities, your output, outcomes, and then the impact. A monitoring and evaluation plan is the fundamental document that details the program's objectives, the interventions developed to achieve these objectives, and describe the procedures that will be implemented to determine whether or not the objectives are met. It shows how the expected results of the program relates to its goals and objectives, describe the data needed and how these data will be collected and analyzed, how this information will be used, the resources that will be needed, and how the program will be accountable to stakeholders. Then a baseline study. What is a baseline study? The baseline study is conducted before implementation of the project starts to measure the condition of the population or community, and this provides a starting reference to track any changes in the future. It is usually followed by an end-line assessment after completion of the project. This will enable us to measure the changes that have occurred as a result of the intervention. Now, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. The implementation, monitoring, and evaluation phase includes monitoring and process, outcome, impact, evaluation, as well as dissemination activities. Monitoring begins as soon as implementation starts, and this goes on throughout the project. It is also known as process evaluation, and this helps to determine whether project activities have been implemented as intended. Process evaluation often includes a detailed description of a project's strengths and weaknesses and provides evidence-based recommendations for project improvement. Excuse me. Outcome evaluations are sometimes called final evaluations because when you talk about outcomes, it's just like your output. These are commonly conducted at the end of a project to assess how well it achieved its planned objectives and to understand the difference it made. Data collected from baseline and endlines may be used for the outcome evaluation. Impact evaluations are conducted to assess if any observed changes can be attributed to or caused by your project. Dissemination and use of lesson plans. It is very key that key findings from monitoring and evaluation activities be regularly reviewed internally as a team, as well as disseminated to stakeholders to inform future programming. Also, reporting, reflecting, and learning should be ongoing occurrences throughout the entire cycle, which is why they are positioned in the center of the diagram. So the sources of our content was from the modules, the materials from MIE in global health, and then a guide to MEL detail, then MIE fundamentals, a self-guided mini course from USAID. Thank you, and over.
Yeah, thank you. Wonderful presentation and a good one. So we come after the two are presented. We take the question at once. Are you with me? So, in Q, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready. I'm ready.
So you can share your screen, right?
Yes, I can share my screen.
So just go ahead. After your presentation, the questions will not come in. For both, over.
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. A minute. Can you all see my screen? Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes, you can see it.
All right.
You can proceed.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Adeneko Williams Aramaju. I'm going to be making this presentation on behalf of Group 2, and we're going to be talking about program theory and framework. So by the end of this model, we should be able to define what a program theory is. We should be able to identify the 3 types of program frameworks. We should be able to list the 5 main components of a logic model. We should be able to develop an evidence-based program outcome that aligns with the program impact. And we should be able to develop a program output that aligns with the program activity and outcome. So what is program theory? Program theory is simply defined as a theory of cause and effect of a program. That is, it seeks to explain why a program is supposed to work by describing the chain of causes and effects that leads to the achievement of a specific goal. And what that is saying is, for every program that is being carried out, there is a specific goal that they are trying to achieve. Now, this theory tells us about the processes that are going to occur, what those the causes, what those processes will, the what is in that process, what they expect to happen, and the result, which is going to be the effect of what those causes will happen. So that is what a program theory is. Now, a program framework are visual tools that are used to map out the what of a program, what the program is trying to achieve, and how the program is going to achieve it. Now, when during the design phase of a program, frameworks allow team members to discuss and agree on the overall impact and outcome of the program. Frameworks also prompt team members to review evidences in order to ensure that cause and effect statements of the program are reasonable. A framework also helps a program in spelling out exactly why a change is expected to happen. It helps informing the development of an M&E plan. During the implementation phase, programs help remind and inspire team members about the big picture of their day-to-day activities in order to help them guide prioritization. Now, a program framework, like we said, is essential in conducting evaluation, and this is because it helps in understanding the what and how of the program. There is also a clear and concise way, I beg your pardon, for presenting to stakeholders what the program aims to achieve and how it will achieve it. So next, what are the types of framework? There are 3 major types of framework used in M&E, which is 1, the logic model, the results framework, and the theory of change. Now, the logic model is a visual tool to systematically map out the relationship between the program resources, activities, and the results. And the results being the outcome, the output, the outcome, and the impact. Now, from the figure there showing the stages of a logic model, we start from inputs, then activities, then outputs, outcomes, and the impact. Now, a results framework is also a visual tool that is used to map out the relationship between program goals, objectives, and the intermediate results. And some result frameworks may also have a sub-intermediate result. Sub-intermediate results feed directly into the achievements of the intermediate result, which in turn contributes to the achievement of the program goal. The achievement of the program objectives, the achievement of the program objectives ultimately leads to the achievement of the program goal. Now, this is a figure that shows the steps of a result framework, starting from the goal to the objectives, to the intermediate results and the sub-intermediate results. Then the theory of change. The theory of change is also a visual depiction of how and why a desired change will occur. The theory of change is always has a long-term goal at the end with items pointing towards the endpoint. Other components of the theory of change includes the program activity, contextual factors, and assumptions. Now, this is what a theory of change looks like. That encompasses of the goals, the impacts, the outcomes, the activities, the assumptions, and all. Now, what are the similarities and differences across framework? With regards to use, now all frameworks are all the same with regards to use. That is, they help to guide the focused. They help to guide in focused development of an evidence-based program theory and planning. They all help in developing an M&E plan. They guide in the development of an evaluation and learning agenda. Now, with respect to visuals, all frameworks are visual depictions of program theory. However, different framework visuals depict the theory in different ways. Now, for logic model and results framework, they typically use boxes and are linear, while the theory of change is more flexible and can use different shapes and images in addition to boxes. In terms of flow and connection, all frameworks depict the if-then flow and connection between statements. That is the cause and effect flow and connections between statements. For example, logic models and result frameworks are pre-specify the directions of arrows, while theory of change is more flexible and arrows can flow in any direction. In terms of stage change, a good framework reflects the fact that change happens in stages, and at the end goal, all framework ends with the item flowing towards the end goal, which is the impact of the program. Now, developing a logic model. There are basically 8 steps in developing a logic model. The first step includes creating a problem statement, then creating the program goal, then the stages of the logic model, which start from the logic model impacts, the outcome, activities and outputs, then inputs, review and revise, and finally updates. Now, when developing the problem statement, the first step in developing the logic model is to have a clear and comprehensive understanding of the gap, that is the problem the program aims to address. Now, the problem statement tells the audience what the problem is, and in that statement, it should include the who, the what, the where, and the why of the problem. That is, who is affected by this problem, where this problem is occurring, what exactly the problem is, and why the problem is a big issue that requires for the need for the program to be implemented. Now, the problem statement is also based on real-time data and evidence, with sources ranging from global entities like the World Health Organization, national enterprises like the Ministry of Health, and from published literature. Now, evidence can also come from a needs assessment. Now, once the problem statement has been determined, the next thing we are going to develop is the program goal, which is a broad, big picture statement that describes the ultimate aim of the program. The statement seeks to answer the statement seeks to answer on the long term what the program hopes to accomplish at the end, and what the problem does, and what problem does it address. Once we are able to develop the program goal, then we begin to draft the elements of the logic model. Now, the logic models are linear and are typically developed from right to left, starting from the expected impact, then working its way back to input, which is the resources for the required program. Now, once we're able to develop the logic model, then we'll review and revise. We'll review and revise to the next stage. After we review and revise, then it should be constantly updated based on activity. And it is also important that we should know that logic model is a living document, and as such, it is always changing. depending on the activities that you expect, the activities, challenges, and all that you experience as the program is being is currently going on. Now, some tips that we should know when developing a logic model is we should be able to develop all the steps separately. Then we should know at what stage will each step occur. We should be able to know the people or persons involved in each step and who would draft the logic model. Now, logic model impacts are statements that give the overall long-term goal of the program by answering the question of what long-term change do we hope to see as a result of this program and what need does it address. It's important to know that the impact statement establishes an overall direction of work to ensure shared understanding among team members and collaborators. That is stakeholders, donors, and other collaborating partners. How specific or broad the impact statement is dependent on the person or organization that is implementing the logic model. Now, outcomes are the short or medium-term changes that we hope to see, which will eventually contribute to the impact of the program. Now, they aren't activities, but they are the expected change one hopes to see as a result of the program activities. They are very vital in the cause and effect correlation between the outcome and the impact, and they must be evidence-based. Now, outcomes can be in two forms. And that is individual outcomes, which you can example in children, pregnant women, nurses, and system level outcomes, which should be in health facilities, communities, and national health systems. Now, it is important to know that when developing an outcome statement, the two major components that should be considered are the what will change, who will change, and what will change and in what direction. Now, there should be only one expected change per outcome. So this simply means that if our impact is addressing multiple problems, each problem should have its own specific outcome. We should not merge all outcomes together. Each outcome for the project that will lead to the achievement of the impact of that project should be listed independently of each other, because we want to know that each outcome that we are trying to address is being achieved as the program is going on. Now, outcomes should be observable in order to gather both quantitative and qualitative data, in order to demonstrate the changes that are occurring. It is very important to ensure that outcomes are relevant to the organization and program goal. Logic model inputs, activities, and outputs. Now, activities are the broad actions of the program. That is, they answer the question of what will be done with the resources, the inputs available in order to achieve the specific goals and objectives of this program. The outputs are the outputs now, not outcome, are the direct result of the activities and answers the question of what is the direct result, that answers the question of what is the direct result of the activities. That is, activities are the tasks that are going to be going on during the program. And in order to, the things that we are going to do in order to achieve the goal of the program. Now, the immediate result of those activities are what is known as the output. And activities and output, they go hand in hand, because the activities determines the output. Now, activities should be prioritized based on the following consideration. 1, how strong is the program theory? 2, how strong is the evidence that backs up the program theory? Now, it is vital to consider if a team organization has the skill, time, and personnel to carry out activities effectively, because this is very vital. Now, inputs are basically the resources required in order to carry out the planned activity. Now, inputs could be categorized into human resources, it could be financial, it could be physical, it could be organizational, it could be community or system-based resources. Now, the human resources of a program includes the staff who help in the planning, the implementing, the monitoring, and the evaluation stage of the program. Now, the financial part of resources are the needs to implement the program activity. It could be as a result, that is funding. It could be from government or from donors. Now, the physical resources like the venues, tools that will be used, supplies that are required, are like the tools that are required to implement these activities. Now, in summary of everything about that a logic model encompasses, it says that there are 5 stages of a logic model, which is the impact, the activities, the output, the outcome. Sorry, the input, the activities, the output, the outcome, and the impact. Now, like we said, when we are creating a logic model, we start from the impact and work our way down back to input. But when we want to read a logic model that has been created, we start reading from the inputs to activities and to output, outcomes, and impact. Now, like we said, the inputs are the resources needed to operate the program. The activities are the inputs that are going to be used for the plan activities. Now, the results that we get from those plan activities are the output. Then the change we see as a result of those activities is what leads to the outcome, and eventually, when outcomes are achieved, the impact, which is the program goal and objective, is going to be achieved. So that's a summary of Module 2 for program framework and theory. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Thank you. I know I believe every one of us is learning. So at this juncture, I would like to answer the questions. So the questions is not directly to the presenters. Everybody among the team, among the group. So it's not only for those who have presented the speech. Team members time to what you have gathered so far within these 2 weeks of the study. So I will proceed. Mr. Abdul, you are still here, right?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Okay, I said the questions is not eventually directed to the presenters. So anyone that is asking question is asking the general members. So anyone among the team can answer the question. So it's not directly only for the presenters. That's what I mean. So, but Mr. Adetola and William, please, you are still in charge of this meeting. So I think Mr. Adetolu, you are still here, right? So you can coordinate the question. Okay, you can coordinate the question for the questions now. So if anyone asks questions, anyone that is willing to answer can raise up their hands through the reaction emojis. So over. So that, take over.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Roy. Okay, thank you, Mr. Roy. Okay, yeah, okay. The second presenter too, Mr. Denekon, thank you for that well-detailed presentation. Okay, so as we've all heard from our coordinator for today, so please, questions can start coming in now. If you have any questions, comments, observations, you want to chip in something in the presentation, so please, you can just signify by a raise of hand, or better still, you can chat in the chat session and then we read it out to everyone. So please, the floor is open now for questions, comments, and addition on that. So
I think someone's hand is up. Divine Okoro, the hand is up.
Okay, good evening. Can I talk?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the presentation, the two presenters. Although the first one, I was barely hearing him. I want to thank the second one too for a detailed presentation. So I have a comment and a question. Let me start with the comments. Based on what the second presenter said about program theory, I think we know we are trying to apply these things. So I felt if he mentioned that or emphasized on the if-then simplified way of knowing this program theory to make it easier for everybody, then we might not totally understand causative and effect. But I guess when we were having the classes or taking the classes, they emphasized on that if-then phrase, which made it quite easy for me, at least for me to understand. Now, my question is, what exactly is the difference? Is there any difference between goal objectives and the impacts? Because from the assignments that they give, I was having a bit of an issue trying to differentiate them. So anyone could throw light on the difference between knowing a goal objective and the impact, or maybe is it in the configuration or something? Any formula that can help for someone like me to differentiate it. Thank you very much for the presentation. That's all.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you for that. I'll leave that to Mr. Denekon to respond and with the thing for group 2. I can see another hand. Please, Barrister Ubakar, just hold on. Let Mr. Denekon respond to this alongside his group, and then we'll come back to you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Good evening once again. So with regards to the first suggestion, I was trying to be fast. Now, basically, the if-then relationship is simply stating that if there is a cause, then we are expecting an effect. For example, if I'm hungry and I eat, then I'm expected to be filled. If I'm thirsty and I drink water, then I'm expected to be satisfied. So the if-then simplified, the cause and effect of a program theory is just created empirically by stating that the if is basically if what we're this cause, that this thing that we're trying to achieve, if we create the cause, which is expected to be a change, then which is the then part now, it is expected that it's going to have a specific kind of effect. So that is basically what the if-then simplification means. Now, with respect to goals, objective, and impact, goal, impact is basically the same thing. The goal is what the program wants to achieve. That particular thing we want to achieve. Now, from using one of the case studies that they used during the training, where they were talking about hand washing in health facilities, as discussing illnesses in the community. So the program was designed with a goal in mind. The goal was they want to reduce infections that result the facility-based infections. That was the goal. So that goal in mind is what they use in creating the impact. The objectives are more or less the outcomes, what the things they aim to achieve that will eventually lead to the goal of the program, of that program. So the goal, you could say the goal is the impact. Then the objectives are more or less the outcomes, because it is the objective that will eventually lead to the goal. And in your logic model, it is the outcomes that will eventually lead to the impact. So you can use it interchangeably. You say the goals are the impacts, the outcomes are the objectives. When you are designing a logic model, you start with the goal of that program that we want to implement. What is the goal of that program? Once we're able to establish the goal, that becomes the impact. Now, for this goal to be achieved, there are some changes we are expecting. There are some results we need to get. That is the objective. In the logic model, when we're able to establish those objectives, that is what we now write down as our outcome. Then we move back down in the logic model. So that is basically it. The goal is more or less the impact, and the objective is more or less the outcome. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Mr. Adenekon. Yes. Madam Okoro, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I got a bit of clarity from there. Thank you.
All right. Okay. We'll now move on to the next question, Barrister Abubakar.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, let me commend the...
Your network seems to be breaking.
Hello?
Okay, we can hear you now. It's okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please, I have observations and questions. My first observation is with regard to the first and second presentation. In their presentations, examples were not given on specific issues because they need to cite examples for better understanding of the concept, like the examples with regard to impact statement, output, and other technical terms. Secondly, the first presenter also, his presentation is out of scope because they need to be specific because the topic is introduction to M&E, that is module 1, but he went on to discuss some aspects of module 2 and 3. It's not because it may lead to I have 2 questions for them. The first question to the first presenter is, what is your experience with using data to make decisions? That is the question for the first presenter. Now the second presenter is, can he simply comment on the relationship between logic model and the project cycle? Because in his presentation, I think they didn't elaborate more on the project cycle vis-a-vis the framework. Thank you very much.
Okay, Barrister, thank you so much for that observation. We have noted them down, but please, can you repeat the question for group 1?
Group 1.
So just kindly repeat both questions. You were breaking, so I didn't really grab exactly what you were saying. Can you repeat the questions again? Thank you.
Okay, the question goes like this for the first presenter. What is your experience with using data to make decisions? Do you get me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, just as our coordinator said, I would like to throw this question to my group members. So please, group 1 members, please, can we do justice to this question? What is okay, have you ever had any experience using data for decision making? I would like any one of us from group 1 to please.
Good evening.
Answer this question.
Good evening.
Okay. Good evening.
My name is Komala Ferutimi, a member of group 1. His question is, what's our experience in using data in making decisions? I think it's just a straightforward question. Any decision you want to make, either simply or concretely, for you to be able to arrive at what you are thinking you wanted to get, you have to probably be able to get data. Even if you are thinking you want to carry out a particular thing, you have to still go around getting a data in situations like that to be able to be sure either this thing you want to do is needed or it's not needed. Then if you want to continue that aspect, you have to gather data from everywhere. Take, for example, I work in tuberculosis, and in the local government, in the state where I work, I discovered that there are more TB problem, tuberculosis problem in one particular aspect of the state as compared to one. I will decide to put more of my resources in the place where there are more tuberculosis because it will spread more there in order to curtail it as compared to the places where there are less problem of tuberculosis. You put the same input, then you want to see how do I probably use the resources in my hand based on the data that are coming. Your data can be anyhow. It can be from oral evidences, it can be from the previous literatures, it can be from focus group discussion. You get those information as raw as like that to be able to make your decision. So I think personally, using data to probably inform my activity goes a long way. And in short, we cannot just do without data in every decision we want to make, as little as even in our own homes. Take, for example, if you have more rice in the house and there's no gari, sorry for going that little, you will not invest more money in your rice. You rather invest it in the gari that is not there. Thank you very much. Over.
Hello?
All right, thank you, Mr. Rotimi. Thank you for that. And I believe for Barrister, I hope your question was well attended to.
Then, sorry, before we go ahead, his first observation was about the fact that you are not so clear in the presentation. If you look at this MIE program, it is one after the other entering or seeping into the next module. The modules are not specifically sitting on their own. One module is entering to another one. So in the previous module, you might have a little talk about a particular topic, but to be discussed in more detail in the other modules. I think that is the reason why there is a little diving into module 2 from module 1. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for that.
Hello.
So before we continue to the next question, Barrister, your second question, we are talking about the relationship between logic model and something. I didn't get that, so I can quickly answer that question.
Okay, the project cycle, because their presentation is silent on the project cycle in relation to the framework. That is why I asked the relationship between the logic model and the project cycle.
The project title?
Cycle. That is in stages, in the initial assessment, planning, and implementation stage.
Okay, the project cycle.
Yes.
Okay. So the logic model is usually developed during the planning stage. Now, first, before we get to the planning, we have to go. A needs assessment needs to be done. The needs assessment. This is basically when we are developing our problem statement, because we need to know exactly what the problem is. When we now understand that, okay, this is the problem, then we go to the planning stage. From the planning stage is where we now develop our logic model. That's where we develop our M&E plan. Now, the logic model, like we said, is a living document. This it's a framework of the activities that it's going to be going on from the planning stage to the implementation stage to the evaluation stage, and basically to the end process. So for an example, let me use an activity that I worked with last year in Kano. There was an activity in Kano that had to do with distribution of insecticide treated nets to every family in Kano. So the project was, we wanted to reduce the incidence of malaria in Kano. Now, the micro plan was done. A micro plan is basically when they were carrying out the needs assessment in order to know exactly, which is where we now said, okay, the incidence of malaria in Kano is high, and we want to use one way of bringing it down to prevent people from going, instead of giving them drugs, if we give them insecticide treated nets and educate them and sensitize them rather on how to use it and make sure they sleep inside that net every night, then it is expected that the incidence of malaria in Kano State will drop. So a framework was carried out, which is that's where the logic model comes in. So in which there were plannings, there were trainings, and there was a distribution phase. That is during the implementation, where there was monitoring, there was evaluation as implementation was going on. It was those monitoring also going on. The data that we are getting, we're also interpreting it to see if the program itself is being if the aim of the program is being achieved. That is, we want to ensure that every household in Kano State has at least one insecticide treated net, and that they are using it to sleep every night. So with regard to the project cycle, the logic model starts from the planning stage. It's when it is developed, and it feeds throughout the implementation stage and all throughout the evaluation. These are based on our targets, based on the inputs, the activities, the outcomes, the outputs, the outcomes, and all. We are able to feed that into the program cycle. That is the implementation stage, the evaluation stage, in order to get the results we're looking for at the end of the day. Thank you very much. I hope I was able to explain and shed light to your question.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Adeneko, for that justice. Please, we are supposed to be ending this session by 9, and this is 9 on the dot. So, and I can see two more hands. So please, our coordinator, Mr. Roy, what do you suggest?
Okay, please just give them the benefit of just a minute for their questions. Then you and some other person can just take the question. Just 5 minutes, let's do.
Okay. So, Mr. Victor Onyeka, your hand has been up since. So, please go on.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much to the presenters, and good evening to everyone online on the class. Skills for M&E was an important section of Module 1. I want to crave your indulgence. Maybe you can spend some seconds to highlight. Then the second question has been bothering me, because especially for those in the NGO sector, is M&E in programming, or is separate from programming but supports program? I don't know if that is clear. What is the value and purpose of M&E to program success? Maybe I should put it that way. Then the second one is, can we outline 1, 2, 5, or 7 skills mentioned in the modules for effective M&E, and maybe elaborate on one? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Victor. My group 1 members, over to you, please.
Mr. Matthew, let me quickly run through that. Now, you were talking about monitoring and evaluation skills. So I'm just quickly going to list through them. So we have adaptability to change in programs. Like we said, an M&E, whether an M&E plan or the logic or a framework, it's a living document. That is, it's a document that we need to constantly update as we are working, depending on what we see as we work in real time. So we need to be able to be adaptable to those changes as they come. That is 1. 2, attention to details. 3, understanding of the audience. We want to carry a program. We want to take it to a particular community. We need to understand that community. we need to, so that we are going to be able to design the program in such a way that it's going to benefit the community and we achieve our aim. That's another skill. Then you have to be a people's person, because there's no way you want to talk about a program without being a people's person. Then we can talk about being able, knowing when to say no. Now, programs are usually, depending on the kind of program, most programs are usually a combination of multiple organizations. Each organization have exactly what they want to achieve from that program. So as an M&E person that is creating an M&E plan, we need to be able to identify the one objective that is primary to that program, and making sure that every other one, if it is not relevant, it is kept aside. So that is some of the skills for monitoring and evaluation. Now, with regards to your second question, which is, if I get it correctly, you're asking what is the benefit of a logic model or benefit of M&E in programming, in a program. As long as, am I correct, Mr. Victor? Am I correct? The importance of M&E in programs.
Yes, what's the value? What's the significance of having M&E to program?
Okay, so from experience, there is no program that you want to do. As long as you are carrying out monitoring, and as long as you are expecting a result, you have to carry out monitoring, you have to evaluate. That is how we get the data that we can use to justify the program, that we can use to justify if a particular program is being effective or not. We have to monitor, we have to evaluate. So after we have designed a program and we're implementing that program, after we've designed the program we're implementing, monitoring has to go on as the program is being going on. At each stage of the program, monitoring has to go on. At the end of the program, all the data that we've gotten, we have to analyze it to see if exactly what we are trying to achieve from the program has been achieved. If the aims and objectives we were trying to get has been achieved. That is how M&E fits into programming, because as long as you need data to validate a program, you have to monitor, you have to evaluate. The monitoring and evaluation are the tools we use in getting our data and analyzing our results. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Victor.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much, Williams.
Sorry, to just quickly add to that last question. If we look at the definition of monitoring and evaluation, it says it's the process of collecting, analyzing, applying, and disseminating data in order to assess progress towards achieving a program goals. That means if you are having a program consists of different projects, meaning a program is bigger than the project. There must be monitoring and evaluation instituted right from the beginning, because for everything you are putting in, for every activity you are carrying out, you have to monitor it to see maybe it is meeting what you wanted, and you have to evaluate it. Is it actually achieving what we think we wanted? Even by the time we are doing initial assessments, you have to monitor to see, am I actually assessing what I wanted to assess? Take, for example, you want to assess for insecticide mosquito net, and the people you gather are busy assessing for leprosy and probably this thing. They are not really doing what. So right from the beginning, immediately you are thinking you want to carry out a project or you want to do a program, the team called monitoring and evaluation is key to it right from the beginning, so that you'll be able to. And the reason is that at any time when there is deviation, you'll be able to quickly correct to still be on track. Thank you very much.
Over. All right, just one comment and a passionate appeal to everyone. If you ask me, two major things we have in organizations and even as a country, Nigeria, is recruitment and M&E. I'm happy to see that we have people from diverse fields and walks of life. When we are very good at policies and writing plans, so we can get money, we can attract projects, but who cares about the the impact and even the outcomes, not to talk of the outputs. So the issue of corruption, the issue of effectiveness, the issue of productivity, the issue of high performance at the individual, at the team, or the organizational level is largely dependent on M&E. And if we can all give this course our best shot and apply it even in the objective we set for ourselves in the office and at home, I think it will go a long way to transform us and the people within our circle of influence. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you for that update. Much appreciated, Mr. Victor.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Victor, Rotimi, and William. Thank you so much for the contribution. So I think we have someone here. Kathy, I think you are the last. Kathy David, please, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure being here tonight, and thanks to the presenters for the wonderful presentation. I quickly have a brief suggestion, and then I continue. My own is answering some of the questions, though they've been answered to a reasonable extent. My observation is that somebody was appointed to actually lead the coordination of this part of the program. We should always allow the person to lead. People interjecting unnecessarily when you are not even called is not too healthy. Okay, he raised 2 persons, hands has been up. People interjecting unnecessarily. We understand everybody has passion for what we are doing, but I don't think it's healthy, please. So subsequently, let's try to allow the person coordinating to lead. Then, in terms of answering the first question asked by the barrister about data and experience in data, he was asking team 1, which I belong, and that's where I started raising my hand. Okay, data is life. I don't know if you have heard about that. Okay, without data, you cannot even try to go into a decision making, consequences of decision makings that are not data driven. Okay, is very, 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 very calamitous. You don't even want to go into that. So data is life. And if you must carry out any decision, it has to be backed with data. That's why we have needs assessment. That's why we do the initial baseline assessment to determine actually the causes, to determine actually what is actually wrong in this area. In terms of experiences, actually, most of us are in this field. Okay, we carry out baseline assessment. We do some baseline assessment to determine what is, for example, in the HIV program, we do the HIV burden of a certain state. What is the HIV burden of a certain state? With that particular HIV burden, you'll be able to know what you are targeting, where you are targeting most of your resources, where you're targeting most your resources here includes manpower and so on and so forth, not just money, not just financial part. Okay, so it's all about that. So data is important. And so that's just my conclusion. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Paki. Thank you for the comments and the rest. Thank you. So, over to you, Mr. Roy. I think we have attended to all those that raised their hands up.
Right. Thank you so much. You have done great. So, at this juncture, our discussion has come to an end. So I just want to quickly remind all who might be interested currently on now with this selection. Fundamentals of Global Health Research on clinical management of HIV. On this is coming from University of Washington. So we also still have other courses from UNICAP, other sub courses, about 52 of them. We have been sharing it on our platform. So in case anyone is interested, so you can have any of the admins. So thank you so much for this one. Then for the attendance, please, notice that some people are yet to see the attendance. So we are about 34 here. So then 30. So that means about 4 people are yet to see the attendance before leaving the meeting. If you have not done so. So thank you so much. Please, if you are free to leave.